Colt, like last night I bit into a chicken leg and I saw the weirdest stuff. Like, do you know what's inside of it?
Okay, so the first thing you probably had to bite through was the periosteum, which is like the outer membrane that covers the bone surface. And then you probably went to the compact bone, and the compact bone has a bunch of stuff in there. So it's like a hard bone, and it has like different lamellae, which are like cylinders made of protein fibers. And in the center of each one, there's a Harvesian canal that has different blood vessels flowing through it so that it can carry nutrients to the bone.
Yeah.
And then there are osteocytes in between layers of protein fibers in the lamella. And so they're like little bone cells. And then you have the spongy bone underneath all the compact bone, which is like lattice-like bone. It has like a lattice-like structure, but it's really hard.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then you probably saw some bone marrow in there. So there's two types. There's red bone marrow and yellow bone marrow. And red bone marrow makes blood cells. It makes blood cells. What am I saying?
I know. What are you saying?
Okay. It makes blood cells. And then there's yellow bone marrow that can become red bone marrow.
That's
So yeah,
cool.
that's probably all you. Hello class, I'm Miss Husid, and today I'm going to talk to you about bones. Alright, so humans are made up of this framework called the skeleton. You have the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. The axial skeleton is basically the middle of you, as shown here, consisting of your ribs, sternum, spine, and skull. Then you have your appendicular skeleton, which is like your arms and your legs, so it's everything that sticks out. Alright? Alright. Bones. They have 5 main functions. 1, they provide a framework against which muscles can pull. 2, they store nutrients. 3, they make blood cells. 4, they protect the organs. And 5, they give shape and structure to the body. To the body. Alright. Now, we're gonna get into long bone structure. So, as you can see here, these are long bones. Tibia, fibula, and femur are all an example of long bones. As you can see here, it's because they're shaped like they're long. Alright. Now, the outer layer of a long bone is called the periosteum, which is basically the visible layer on the outside, and it's a tough membrane. The periosteum has blood vessels running through it. Then, you have compact bone underneath. Compact bone is hard material, allows for stress endurance, alright? So it's everything that's underneath this outer layer. Compact bone is composed of lamellae, alright? The lamellae are little tube structures that have Harvesian canals in the middle of them, which are also tube structures on the inside in the middle. And they have capillaries running through them and blood vessels running through them so that they can carry nutrients to the bone. And they are made up of different protein fibers. Alright? You have osteocytes, which are bone cells that are gaps between protein fibers in the bone. Next, beneath the compact bone, you have spongy bone. This spongy bone has a lattice-like structure, alright? So, it is not shown on this diagram, but it is below not only the periosteum, but also the compact bone. Right. Oh my. Alright. Next, we have bone marrow. Everyone always talks about bone marrow, but what does it really do? Well, red bone marrow produces blood cells, alright? Then you have a yellow bone marrow, which can eventually turn into red bone. It stores energy. What bad things can happen to bones? Well, as everyone knows, you can break them, you can fracture them, and all that. A fracture, by definition, as a result of too much stress on the bone. However, don't worry because it will heal as long as no capillaries have been damaged in the case of the break or fracture.
Yo man, my fingers are swollen and they've been hurting recently.
Well, you see, I think you might have arthritis. Arthritis is a bone disease which causes painful swelling of the joints. How old are you?
27.
That rules out osteoarthritis, which is related to age, and it's caused by the cartilage surrounding the bones to slowly be rubbed off, and the joints are rubbed together, which is very painful. I think you might have rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis develops in the immune system and travels to the tissues. It causes bones to become inflamed, swollen, and deformed. It is very painful. Let's go treat you for this rheumatoid arthritis.
So, Michelle, how was your weekend?
Good. The kids are great. Tom is great. I'm just ready for ready for my morning yoga.
Yeah, me too. Relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good.
Okay.
Yoga is great for joints. Joints is the place where two bones meet. A subcategory of joints is semi-movable joints. Semi-movable joints allow limited movement. One example is that it connects the body parts of the vertebral column, allowing bones to bend and twist. Another example is in the rib cage, where long strands of cartilage connect the first 10 pairs of ribs to the sternum, allowing your ribs to expand when breathing. Another category of joints is fixed joints. Fixed joints can be found in the fixed joints can category of joints is fixed joints. Fixed joints prevent movement and can be found in the skull, where they securely connect bony plates and do not permit movement. Also, small amounts of connective tissue in fixed joints absorb impact and prevent the bones from breaking.
How are you? Good. So, since we're almost ready to pop with our first kids, we just had some questions about, in general.
Okay. For example, bone development in the child, how does that work?
Most bones develop from cartilage, and cartilage is a tough but flexible connective tissue. Ossification. What? Ossification!
Oh my God, you don't.
Ossification is the process from which cartilage develops into bones because of a deposition of minerals. Most bones become replaced by cartilage throughout the process of bone development. However, some cartilage remains cartilage. For example, the end of your nose, the outside of your ear, and the inside of your trachea. And some bones develop immediately without forming into cartilage first.
Thanks.
Thank you for that awesome info. Now I know everything I need to know about my child.
With our kids, we're going to be learning about the different types of joints and how they interfere with yoga. So one of the main joints is the hinge joint, and it allows for our arms to go like this and for our elbows to move. Another joint is the ball and socket joint, which allows our arms to move in a circular motion as well as up and down. Another joint is the pivot joint, which lets is your child okay? Continuing yoga. Which allows our necks to move side to side. Next, we have the saddle joint. Even though this doesn't really help with yoga, it helps us grasp objects with our hands and move our thumbs around. Our last joint is the gliding joint, which allows for bones to glide over each other. Joint structure is very important to the body. Bones that touch each other are covered with cartilage, which helps protect the bone from friction. Ligaments are tough bands of connective tissue that help join these bones and joints. Yeah, bones! synovial fluid is a lubricating substance excreted by tissues which helps bones and joints that are under pressure from friction, which can damage the bone. The knees are most susceptible to this because they are under all of the body's weight.
The epiphyseal plate is also known as the growth plate, and it is composed of cartilage cells that divide and form columns that push older cells towards the middle of the bone. The epiphyseal plate is the location of bone elongation, and it occurs at the ends of long bones. Bones continue to elongate until all of the cartilage has been replaced by bones. At this point, the person has reached its maximum height and will not grow anymore. Also, during the replacement of cartilage to bone, as older cells die, new bone cells are replaced by it.